Today we talked about placing numbers on a number line. As you can see here, the numbers that we are going to place on the number line are 1 and 1/100th, 1 and 3/10, 2 and 12/100ths, 2 and 5/10, 2 and 5/100ths. The first thing that we need to look for are our major benchmarks, and in this case, all of the numbers fall between the whole numbers 1 and 3. So I'm going to go ahead and make those my benchmarks. I'm going to make this a 1, and the outside number is a 3. Directly between 1 and 3, we have the whole number 2. We then need to place in other benchmarks and tick marks in order to better place our decimals. So halfway between 1 and 2, we know is 1.5. And halfway between 2 and 3 is 2.5. Because some of our decimals up here go out to the hundredths place, I am going to make everything so that it is out to the hundredths place, which I did the same thing with my benchmarks. In between each of our 1 and 1.5 and 1.5 and 2 and 2 and 2.5, there are 4 lines. So I'm going to go ahead and place those in. This line representing 1.1, 1 and 2/10, 1 and 3/10, 1 and 4/10, and then there's 1 and 5/10. So 1 and 6/10, 1 and 7/10, 1 and 8/10, 1 and 9/10, 2. 2 and 1/10, 2 and 2/10, 2 and 3/10, 2 and 4/10, 2 and 5/10. 2 and 6/10, 2 and 7/10, 2 and 8/10, 2 and 9/10, and 3. As we discussed in class, your number lines are not going to be perfect. However, the spacing between each of your tenths or whatever your tick marks are should be the same or very close to the same. So once we have our number line set up, we then are going to look at each of the decimals at the top so that we can place them on the number line. This is 1 and 100. This is also the same as $1 and 1 cent. So we had mentioned that this tick mark, if this represents 1 and 0/100ths, this represents 1 and 10/100ths. 1 and 100th, or $1 and 1 cent, is bigger than $1, yet smaller than $1.10. So this marking is right next to the 1, and we can label that 1 and 100th. We can next look at 1 and 30/100ths. Well, I know that this is 1 and 10/100ths, this is 1 and 20/100ths, so this tick mark here is 1 and 30/100ths. Next, we look at 2 and 12/100ths. So I know that I have to go to the 2, and I'm going past 2. Again, I know that this is 2 and 0/100ths, so this must be 2 and 10/100ths, 2 and 20/100ths, 2 and 30/100ths. I know that 212 falls between 2 and 10/100ths and 2 and 20/100ths. So 2 and 12/100ths is going to fall very close to 2 and 10/100ths. So we can mark that 2 and 12/100ths. Next, I'm going to place 2 and 50/100ths on the line, and we already have a line marked 2 and 50/100ths, so that one is easy to place. Next, we're going to look at 2 and 5/100ths. 2 and 5/100ths, or 2 and 5 cents, $2.05, is between $2 and $2.10. So it's directly halfway between the $2 and the $2.10. So that is 2 and 5/100ths. Let's look at another number line. Let's look at this one here. This one gives us the decimals 12/100ths, 1 and 8/100ths, 65/100ths, 85/100ths, and 1 and 75/100ths. So again, we're first going to look at what's our smallest number, what's our largest number. So we have 0 and 12/100ths as our smallest number, and we have 1 and 75/100ths as our largest number. Therefore, I need a 0 at this end because there's nothing smaller than 0. And I have numbers less than 1. But I also need to go up to 2 so that I can include all of the numbers that are listed above. Directly between 0 and 2, so we always mark that middle first, is 1. And then directly between 0 and 1 is 0 and 5/10, and directly between 1 and 2 is 1 and 5/10. Whenever we have a number to the next 5/10, we're drawing 4 lines. So that's 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10. And then that 6/10, 7/10, 8/10, 9/10, 1 and 1/10, 1 and 2/10, 1 and 3/10, 1 and 4/10, 1 and 6/10, 1 and 7/10, 1 and 8/10, 1 and 9/10, and 2. Again, the tick marks should be very close to being the same size, but they're not going to be perfect. I am going to add zeros to take me out to the hundredths place so that everything makes sense. I know that this number here is going to be 10 hundredths or 1/10, so 2/10 or 20 hundredths, 3/10 or 30 hundredths, 4/10 or 40 hundredths. And this is going to continue all the way across, so as you finish filling those in, all right, we then need to place each of these decimals on the line. So I have 12 hundredths. The decimal 12 hundredths is the same as 12 cents, and that is going to fall, if I look, I have a 1 in the tens place. So it needs to fall directly after this 10 hundredths because it's less than 20 hundredths. So it's going to fall very close to 10 hundredths. And I'm going to mark that with a dot on the number line and labeled it up top. Then we have 1 and 8 hundredths. So I have to go past the whole number 1 because we have the 1 there. And I know that this is $1.08. So here's $1 or 1 whole. And this represents 1 and 10 hundredths, which is the same as $1.10. $1.08 is less than $1.10 and greater than $1. But it's closer to the 1/10, so I'm going to make that dot closer to 1/10 and label it 1 and 8 hundredths. The 65 hundredths, again, we look at the whole number, it's less than 1. So 65 cents, here's 50 cents, here's 60 cents or 60 hundredths, and I know that between 60 and 70 it must fall directly in the center there. So 65 hundredths falls between 6/10 and 7/10. Next we have 85 hundredths. Again, this number is less than 1, so it needs to be to the left of the 1, and it falls between 80 hundredths and 90 hundredths. And it's directly in the center, so I'm going to draw the dot and label it 85 hundredths. And lastly, we have $1.75 or 1 and 75 hundredths. I know that's greater than 1. It's greater than 150. So there's 160, 170. So I know it must fall between this 170 and 180. So this is 1 and 75 hundredths. As you place numbers on the number line, remember it's very important to first create your benchmarks and then go in and put tick marks in to make placing the other numbers in easier. Now you can try to place these numbers on the number line yourself. If you'd like to come in and have them checked in class, I will be more than happy to do so.